Hey, it is season three of Nobody Told Me with Mike and Blaine. I'm Mike Milan. That is Blaine Birch, my partner. And this is Nobody Told Me with Mike and Blaine, where we talk about business, beer, and bullshit. And this is going to be bigger, better, and more awesome than ever. What do you think?
Oh, it's like triple. It's a trifecta here.
Yeah. What's funny is that this week, right? This is our first week, season three, episode 72. And here's the thing we're going to talk about. Sam Walton's quote on high expectations are the key to everything, right? Think about it. First week of the year, everybody's got new expectations. It's like, yeah, 2022, screw it. We're doing something different.
Exactly. And we're not talking New Year's resolutions. We're talking expectations because that's different. That's big. That's bigger. That has a goal in mind. I'm just going to say that because New Year's resolutions are just like historically bad. I think.
All right. So what's the longest you think you ever kept a New Year's resolution?
I don't know if I've ever even done one because I just thought they were kind of silly. Because I'm always like, screw that. I don't need January 1st to start something. I could start something December 31st at noon. If I got the inkling to do it, I'm doing it. So the date was never that important to me. So I don't know. I don't think I've ever done one.
Yeah, but don't you think they all just kind of fall into like maybe five categories, right? I want to be more healthy. I want to treat people better. I want to save or make more money. Or what's another one? That's I don't know, do something
I
for
want
yourself.
to stop or I want to start. It's one of the two.
Maybe that's it. Maybe there's only two.
I want to stop. I want to stop drinking and start working out, or maybe I want to start drinking and stop working out. I don't know. It's probably one or the other.
Hey, speaking of drinking, are you drinking today? What are you drinking?
Yes. And okay, so we've been biking to this brewery a whole bunch of times lately. And so last week when we were by there, you can't buy this beer in stores. You can only buy it at the brewery. Goldwater in Scottsdale, downtown Scottsdale. And this one's called Birthday Suit. And it's hilarious because I thought it was a guy in like pajamas, but it's actually like a nude guy that's all tatted up. And his beard's a hop. And it's like an awesome can called Birthday Suit from Goldwater. Awesome brewery. They got a couple new beer every week. It's really good stuff. And one of my favorites there it's called Flannel Buddies. If you like Imperial Stout, it is outstanding, but they ran out of it in cans. So I bought 3 or 4 different ones and drank all the rest. This is one that was left. So yeah, great beer though. And a really good brewery. If you're in Scottsdale, make sure you go check them out. What do you got?
Right on. Well, I kind of took a page out of your book with the logos, right? So, but I think you'll like the title or the actual name of this beer because we talk about it all the time. So,
All right.
It's called Scope Creep.
Scope Creep. Nice.
Right? It's by a Fair. Wait a second, I had it and I forgot it. Oh, Fair State Co-op, and they're out of Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Nice.
But when I saw it, I'm like going, oh man, what better title for a beer and a business, in a business podcast than Scope Creep?
And as soon as you say a Scope Creep and showed up, I said nice, but the hair on the back of my neck stood up, and I'm like, oh man, that beer must have been rough to make. So maybe that's what we'll do for season 4. We'll do the episode based on the name of one of our beer. Maybe that'll be what we'll do next year.
First thing I did was it Scope Crept all over my desk. It just foamed up and went all over my desk. Now, I mean, I don't know how I kept it out of. Oh my god, I got a mess. So I'm gonna try to get it with my shirt to keep it out of my keyboard.
Yeah, you don't need that stuff in your computer and keyboard.
Think about the Scope Creep there. It's supposed to be inside the body. Now it's outside the body.
It's all over the place. Just making your job bigger and bigger and adding tasks and longer and longer. You spill that, and you spill some beer, and I'll peel off my shirt and get into my birthday suit.
I almost had to. It's like ridiculous. I mean, I don't know what it was. I bought this, I put it in the refrigerator, I walked it from the garage to the office, and that's what happened. That
Yeah.
is so ridiculous.
And it only happens
Yeah.
when at the worst possible time. Usually you're in a house at a party, open a beer and it starts, and then you're like trying to see how much foam can I drink before I get this on the floor. So that figures,
Yes.
But
If you're watching YouTube, you're going to see me do that. Right. So if you go to the YouTube version of this, you're going to say, oh my God, look at him. I'm sipping the suds off the top as it rolls down the backside of it onto the deck.
see it. See it. I'm too cultured. See, I have a glass every time. And not just a glass. I have a tulip every time. And so I always open my beer in the kitchen beforehand. So I'm safe at least from that.
Yeah, I went to that, salt to the earth type guy. I'm going to pop open a beer for you so I'm drinking exactly what I'm talking about. And,
Yeah. I'm
yeah,
not faking it.
yeah.
Just so everyone knows, I'm not faking it. I'm not that excited. I'm just going to take whatever's in my can. All right. What high expectations, I think, right?
Yeah, but look what happens. I say let's have high expectations. Let's think about 2023, about you, about me personally, professionally, what's going to happen here. And the first thing I do is I spill beer all over the desk. Is that an omen? That looks like an omen.
Oh, it just sounds like a frothy beer, but you see, that's the thing, that's the problem with these New Year's resolutions, because people take these things as signs, right? It's because that's all people are built for, is pattern recognition. I think we've talked about that in this show before. You're always looking for patterns. And so of course you go like, well, I can't do a New Year's resolution anymore because I missed a day or whatever. So I definitely, but I think it's a perfect time of year to kick off the year. I just avoid the New Year's resolution, but high expectations for the year. This is a perfect time to kick off and say, what do you want to accomplish in 23? What are your goals? In fact, we've already had that meeting with my team. I've had that meeting. I had a PowerPoint, man. Like, we went through it. This is what we're doing this year. This is where we're going. This is our goals for the year. This is how we're going to do it, quarter by quarter. Like, that's all really important to set some goals.
Well, I always have that exercise in like October, right? It's about goal setting, what's going to happen. Then November is kind of putting it to paper and putting some numbers around it, and then getting board approval. If you have a board or you got some leadership you need some approval from, that way they sign off on the budget for January 1, right? I mean, but I always kind of start that process in like September, October. That way I can get it all in line. We all know what's happening January 1st. That way, if you take a little break, Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate through the new year, you know what you're doing as soon as you step back in the office.
Yeah. Yeah. So all the things that I had in my presentation, yeah, that's all from thinking about it and working these things through last fall. But then it was, we're going to kick it off and this is when we're going to have our meeting, because we don't want to do it right before holidays. It's right after you get back. People are excited to get going. You say, okay, this is where we're going. And we have some high expectations, right? You have to have goals. You have to have goals, and you have to have lofty goals, but they have to be reasonable. Like, they have to be achievable, because that's the other thing, is you can demotivate people if you make goals that are just too dumb. So you have to be really careful with that, I think.
Well, especially if they're attached to somebody's money, right? You hit quota, you get X, and it's like,
sure.
We never hit quota, right? It's just, they won't try as hard because they know they won't get it. I mean, there almost needs to be a realistic, like, going, you should always hit this. Boom. I mean, just like it's almost a given as you should almost have, something in the bucket, in the pipeline that says, oh, you already got this built in. You got, based on your close rate, you already got $1 million, in the bucket, right, in your pipeline. So we want you to get $1.5 million, or whatever that is. So it makes it like it's easy. But then you give them a stretch goal bonus. Yeah, but if you get two, I'm going to give you this.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
that's the high expectation. That makes them go, oh, I know I got this one in the bag. Let me reach for the next one.
Yeah. If you have dollars attached, I think that's really important, is you have to give them something that's realistic they can reach, and then compensate them and give them that ability to go, like, I'm going to give that extra. That extra one's worth more. And I can do that. I can make that. But it's got to be lofty. It's got to be high expectations. And ours isn't high expectations just for dollars, right? Like, we have high expectations on the quality of our product, how we're developing the product, high expectations on how we're supporting our customers, how we're supporting our teammates. So like these are all, it's very holistic, right? It's not just dollars.
Yeah, I mean, when you say the high expectations, there has to be motivation behind it. I mean, if I do this, then what happens, right? So for the company, yeah, I hit this revenue goal. Oh my God, we're in a better position for the next round of funding, or we're in a better position to have more cash to do 5 more features or whatever that is. But I think you have to attach the, if I do this, then this will happen. Right. Whether it's money, party, features, I don't know what that is, but I think those two have to go hand in hand or it's an empty promise.
Yeah, but I think they're I don't think dollars are the sole thing that drives people. Like people have to be compensated well, but it's there has to be a bigger mission in mind. There has to be a bigger vision in mind, right?
What do you think are the biggest motivators then of people? What do you think that is?
Well, I think there's a sense of self-satisfaction, a sense of accomplishment, and that isn't always dollars. In fact, I think a lot of times it isn't dollars. There's a sense of achievement. I think uh, like achieving something as a team, um, sort of serving the greater good. I think a lot of those things motivate people more than um, they think. And I think dollars aren't as important as I think what happens is when it's a really miserable experience, dollars become more important. But when there's more to accomplish and more to feel good about than just, oh, my paycheck went up, but boy, it sucks here. I don't that doesn't fly, I don't think.
Yes, but you only talk about the positiveness of it. I think if we attach the label pride, yeah, there's a sense of accomplishment, and I felt proud because I did that. But if I fail, I don't want to feel the embarrassment that associates with my pride,
Mhm.
right? Which means I didn't get it. So there's a little bit of fear attached to the sense of accomplishment,
Yeah.
right? And that's the goal line. That's
Yeah.
you fear not being as high as your expectation, but then you feel really good when you exceed it.
Yeah, and a little bit of fear is a healthy thing, right? And as entrepreneurs, a lot of fear is usually at times pops up, right? Um, it's but yeah, like there's it. You're right. It's not just like this comfy cozy. It's there's got to be like, man, I got to achieve this. Like just again, it's not like, oh, you do this or you're fired or whatever. No, there's got to be more to it where we need to succeed as a team. But if we don't, this is what happens. Like we're struggling as a business. Our customers are struggling, whatever it is, right? And so I think I think I like to lean towards the positive for motivation, but uh, there should be some uncomfortableness because as the owner, entrepreneur, the biggest investor, guess what? Guess who? There's stress and there's struggles and there's um, fear involved all the time, right? You can't just
Yeah.
shoulder all that yourself.
All right. So currently, here's what's kind of going on in my part of the world, right here in North San Antonio. It's exploding with growth. I mean, I'm in a new, high growth area, but there's 10 other, subdivision developments around us. I'm starting to feel bad for what Tiger Sanitation does our trash. So 2 years ago, when we built the house and moved in, we got twice a week pickup, where two times trash, one time recycle. Right? They just come by the house. On Thursdays I'd put out the recycle and the trash, and on Mondays I'd put out just the trash. And it worked out fine. Well, that was 2 years ago. In that amount of time, there's probably been 100 houses or more go up in this neighborhood. Right.
Yep.
And I think they're experiencing some growth pains, whereas, oh my God, it takes longer now for that route because I have to pick up 100 more houses. And sometimes I don't get to everybody. Right. which then makes the customer like, oh, wait a second, what am I paying for if you didn't even pick it up? I put it out all day long. I left it out till 7 o'clock at night. Nobody came and got it. Put it out the next day. Nobody came and got it. Nobody's communicating. And then what they did to relieve some of the stress, they said, we're going to go to every other week recycling instead of every week.
Yeah.
But charge it the same, right? Not reduce. Matter of fact, they increase prices and reduce service.
Yeah.
And still, I see neighbors complaining about missed service, or they didn't get to their part of the neighborhood, or those type of things. I'm like going, so there's a capacity issue where they have high expectations. They're going to grab a ton of money because they have an exclusive market. Nobody else can pick up trash based on the homeowners agreements around here. Nobody else can pick up trash with them, but they're not doing it. So I feel sorry for them in the fact that what's the motivation? Is there another track? I mean, is there an option? We don't have an option. So what's the motivation for them to do better?
Yeah, none. That's the reality, right?
Reduce service and increase price. You reduce service and increase price.
Yeah.
And we still have to use you.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing that they can get lazy, but the people at the top know that doesn't go forever. Like that contract has a length.
Yeah.
And
I think there's a competitor in town, but there must be some time frame on this contract. But and here's the other thing. There's not enough homeowners on the HOA board right now because you have to have X number of homeowners, meaning lots built before the builders give up their board slots, right? Their homeowners association board slots, right? And the builders don't really care. They're like, oh, whatever, we're going to build houses. Yep. So, in some of these neighborhoods, we haven't met that threshold. So you got the ratio of builders to homeowners is off.
Yeah. Yeah. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And builders just don't care as much because they don't live here.
Now I don't know if this has anything to do with what we're talking about, but I find it interesting, really interesting. So you're talking about the garbage pickup, right? So we have the big black garbage things and the recycle, we put that out and everything. The big black garbage bin that gets picked up by the truck every week in Scottsdale is probably it's at least double the size of the black bin we have in Edmonton that the truck comes by and picks up and dumps in both once a week. We were biking through Phoenix the other day and we went by some houses and we could see in the back, they had these garbage cans that the truck comes and picks up. It looked like the quarter the size of the bloody house. I've never seen these garbage cans, but it was behind every house. So I'm like, I thought they were commercial. And then I looked like, no, that's a house. And some of them are really kind of small houses. And and I looked at it and just thought like, that is bizarre. How much waste can you create in that house? Or do you only pick it up once a month? Because that thing was the size of a small swimming pool. And then we get to Edmonton and you're like, how am I going to jam everything into this little thing every week? But I think you adapt. So I just thought it was really interesting is how you adapt to it based on sort of what you're given. And I actually think it probably promotes to get more recycling and more whatever. Anyway, when you talked about garbage, I was picturing that. I'm like, there's something there. There's something there business wise where, you put it on the person on the other end and they adapt to it.
Huh. Well, yeah. I mean, that's what McDonald's did with the French fry ketchup cups. They used to be larger. Right? And I know you can pull them open and make it larger. Yeah, they used to be larger. Now they're smaller because you'll put less in it. You'll take, not for me, because I'll just make 2 or 3 of them. But
big handful.
Yeah, the cups, the cups became smaller. So you can't put as much ketchup in it because I think they were wasting. They could probably see in the trash or whatever, like going, oh, they only use like half of that container. And we used to do that in the restaurant business too. Is like we would watch the plates that came back And we're like going, wait a second, almost every time we serve this spaghetti plate or this, I think we had a Cobb salad or something like that, where it was so large that people just physically couldn't eat it all. All right. So they'd eat half of it. We're like going, what are we doing? Why not reduce the size of the serving? Maybe not in half to what they're eating, but by 25% of that. So they still
Yeah.
feel like they get a lot and they leave a little instead of, throwing away half the plate.
Yeah. That's a whole weird area too, because culturally, should we be encouraging people to waste food? Oh.
Yeah. The thing is that we're bigger people now because I think we didn't waste a lot of food. We were told we were told to clean our plates.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember
all growing up, I was anyway. I'm like, going, hey, clean your plate. I'm like, all right, well, whatever you put on it, I'm just going to eat it. Same thing in the Army. Whatever you put on, just eat it.
I remember years ago, I was teaching a few courses on the side at the university, and we had some guests in town from Italy, and so we took them all out for dinner, and we went to like a restaurant, and I still remember them sitting there, and literally like their eyes got about this big, and they started laughing when the plates were put in front of them with like a burger and fries, like because I think it was 3 or 4 times what they would get in Italy on a plate, and they were literally just shocked. They could not believe it, and we're just like, oh, this is the shit you get here. This is what you get. But it's kind of bizarre, right?
Well, let's look at that from a business standpoint. All right. And I'm going to take a different approach, one that you probably don't think I would take, right? Because I'm not looking at it from a waste and all that. I'm looking at it as I want to increase my revenue per customer, right? The value of the average customer. How do I do that? I can charge more if I just make the appearance of it, because the cost between probably a quarter of that, or 75% of what you get and what you actually get is not that much. But if I give it that much more, you got the perception of my now increased price. I'm not getting 30% gross profit. Maybe I'm getting 44% gross profit.
Yeah.
Right.
But
and I'm not giving you as much.
But when you look at the nicer the restaurant you go to, generally the smaller the helping size. The helpings come down in size. So there's a point where when you're reaching people that appreciate quality over quantity, you actually have probably a much larger profit margin, because the actual amount of food, it might be higher quality ingredients, but the amount of food goes down and your price goes way up, and you actually get paid for doing small servings.
See, but you're saying that all kitchens and all serving staff and all bar staff are the same, and they're not, right? What you pay a chef in a bar and grill versus what you pay at Eddie V's, or J Prime here in San Antonio.
Yeah,
totally different skill level and pay range. So I think the costs are not in the food; they're in the people.
No, yeah, and that makes sense, and the environment and everything, and I think I heard from a restaurateur in Edmonton that I think the average restaurant profit margin is 3%, and 5%. If you're doing 5%, you're kicking ass. And I was shocked by that. I'm like, man, those margins are tight. So that all that price and everything just, I don't know. That you were in the business though. Was that bullshit, or is that accurate?
No, I mean, on the food side, yeah. But that's where you make a choice, right? Remember, I think I've said this in the past. Are you a bar with a restaurant or a restaurant with a bar?
Yeah.
And I think you can make more percentage wise with a bar and a small restaurant than a restaurant with a small bar.
Okay. Yeah. No, I can see that. Yeah.
Right. Yes. I think it's the mix. But restaurants overall make less than just bars overall, percentage wise.
Yeah, no, I could see that, and it's probably a lot easier because you don't have to have the whining pig that we was in our area that you walked by that one night. Heather and I were there last night, and we had drinks and probably a massive profit margin. And then we had what did they have for food? Grilled cheese sandwich. And that's what we had. But that has got to be very low. Like, you don't have to have a chef. You don't even have a kitchen. They got a sandwich press.
That's a bar with a restaurant. That's what that is, right? They make the money on the beers. How often do people just return a beer?
Oh yeah, that doesn't
But
happen.
they'll return a grilled cheese like, oh, this is not cooked right, or this is too cold, or this is, I don't like, you put caramelized onions. I didn't know it was there, and they send it back, or it's something weird, right? People send food back all the time. They don't send, a scotch and soda back, or, a Budweiser back.
Yeah. No, it's that, yeah, it's got to be so much more complicated. Like, I just like that because it was like, this is simple, nice little area. Just simple. It's beer, wine, and the most I have to do is a grilled cheese sandwich. That's simple system.
All right, so let me redirect here.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, walk me back to your comment about we just went through this exercise about high expectations and setting goals for 2023. Walk us through that process. How do you do it at Dry Run?
Well, like, first of all, to me, I'm like info gathering for all year. You're constantly learning, you're constantly gathering information. And we're already doing stuff. Like I said, it's not like, oh, we have this amazing idea, but we're not going to do it till January 1st. So that doesn't happen, right? So we're constantly evolving this. But I also know that it's really useful to kick off the year. And did you just spray beer around again?
Dude, that beer has been sitting there for 25 minutes doing nothing, and it's still foamed out all over me. So scope creep, I think, is beer creep all over the desk in my shirt.
Now you'll know better to pick something out that like just gives you shivers, because that's a bad word in business. So that was a bad pick for a beer. We'll have to remember that. If it's a bad word for business, don't grab it.
That's 2 in a row, and I got 4 more of these, and I'm gonna tell you what, I got 4 more in the fridge. If they all do it, there's something wrong with the beer.
Yeah, there's something a little weird about that. Where was I? I don't know. Yeah, I couldn't have been that exciting. No, but
you're talking about info gathering, and
Yeah. And so I gather all this information, and like I said, it's not like a shift. We're not changing things January 1st, but it's a good opportunity to kick off the year. And then on the quarters, we do like, we've got a little sort of funnel here. So you've got your year kickoff, and then you got your quarter kickoff. We have our once a week OKR meeting, and then we have our daily stand-ups. So we got these little itty bitty short meetings, a little bit longer, bigger and bigger, right? And so looking at that, I'm like, okay, we have to figure out, we've talked about all these things. We're always doing all these things, but it's a great time to pull them together and make some goals and actually some strategy to execute. So it's not like we're just going here, but here's how we're going to do it, right? And it's strategy, not down to tactics. That's where the weekly stuff comes in, the monthly stuff comes in. And so, but what I think is really important is, like we talked about from the start, is the goals have to be achievable but lofty, and that's a tough mark sometimes to hit. And so I do that from bottom up. And I think for a smaller business, anyone that's doing top down, startups especially, a top down, our TAM is a $20 bajillion TAM and our addressable market is $40 bajillion, and we only need 1%. Get lost. Like, that's not worth anything, right? So it's starting from the ground up on, I guess when I'm coming up with those numbers, I am looking it down to a tactical level of how we're going to generate this. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. That means we want to get this many customers in Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, average customer value, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, and the revenue we're going to generate. And at the end of the year, this is what we're going to be generating. And we're going to do anything we can to do that. And so but it's like ground up, so that you know that it's realistic but lofty, and you have a way to execute on it.
Yeah. So here's what I liked about what you just said. All right. So, because to me, an expectation, there has to be some evidence that it could be achieved. Right. And too many times in startups, like you said, well, there's 1 million people out there. All we need is $1 from everybody. We got $1 million. Yeah. I mean, that shit don't work. Come on.
No, it doesn't.
what you're doing, right? What you're doing is you're gathering the evidence of success and failure, right? This is what worked, this is what didn't work, and you're trying to, pour jet fuel or enhance the things that worked and reduce the amount of money you spend on the things that didn't work, right? I
Yeah.
think that's kind of what exercises happen, either yearly or quarterly or however often. But if you're just starting out, you got to start with an assumption. I think this is what will happen, but then create some variations off of that. And I learned this lesson this year in Facebook ads of all things. So I got some lofty expectations this year about what my ads can do because of a simple exercise I went through on putting it together, right? And have we talked about ads, you and I, before about how to do this?
Yeah, we have a little bit, but not. No, let's hear. I want to know what you're on here.
Here's the system I come up with, and I've been running this since October. And so by January 1st, I'm like, oh yeah, I got several ads that I've dialed in that are cost me less than $2 a lead, right? Just coming in.
Nice.
But it's I started off with 3 campaigns, and here's what I did, and this might be terrible, and people listening like going, he's the dumbest guy I've ever heard of, and probably am. But I started off with just 3 campaigns, right? And the 3 campaigns is I'm going to give the same ad. I won't say the same ad. I'm going to have the same goal. I just want leads for 3 different campaigns. The only thing so the way Facebook sets it up is you got a campaign, then you have an ad set, then you have ads within the ad set. So think about it as a book, then a chapter, then a page, right? Yeah. If you look at it that way, that's the way I started looking at it. I got a book, I got a chapter, then I got a page. So I said, okay, my book is, I got 3 books. I just want to collect leads. Some people want website traffic. Some people want sales, whatever. I just wanted email addresses, right? Because I'm kind of new starting out again. So I want leads. The next one was the ad sets. This is where I made some distinctions, but the only distinction I made was on audience. I'm like going, I want small business owners. And I didn't put a lot into them. Like on small business owners, accountants, and then the third one was this lookalike audience from people who had already been to my website, because the people already had email addresses for I could cross. I don't know how Facebook does this lookalike thing, but so I had lookalike, small business, and accountants. So think about that. I got 3 ad sets on 3 campaigns. Then I put 3 ads in each ad set. So I had 3 ads for accountants, 3 ads for small business owners, 3 ads for lookalike audience. All the same ad, except for one variable. I changed out the photo on the words were the same, everything was the same, just changed out the photo, right? Because what I learned, and then when it said location and placement, I didn't pick 100 different places to put it in there. I said, just the feed. I only want to be in one place. Because I'm like going, I'm dumb enough that I can't figure out if I have multiple things going on at once. But I know if I run the same ad with the only thing different is who I'm talking to and what, if they like, what picture they like. That's in one place. That's it.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, and I kept it at like $10 a day. It wasn't a big number. It was like $10 a day. And I found out in the first 2 weeks what worked and what didn't. And this is where I think I told you where I came up with the when I'm going to make a change. And it came down to cost per lead. What did it cost me to get somebody's email address? And if it was over $20 because nobody was clicking on it and giving me their address, I changed something, right? I changed the verbiage is what I ended up doing, is change the verbiage. If it was between $10 and $20, I let it ride because I didn't have enough information. Anything under $10, I started pouring more money into that ad.
Double down. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. I mean, but they gave me some methodology, and now I've got it to where I'm getting leads for less than $2. I'm getting customers, which is clicks, for less than $6. I'm like going, I think I figured it out. What surprised me was the image. In all 3 categories, They wanted me in the picture.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's a proven thing that's worth starting with, because that's been proven over and over again in ads. Like a person um, sells, like a
Yeah.
face
Hey,
sells. That attracts attention, right?
especially on Facebook. I mean, they call it Facebook. They want to see your face.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
But I was surprised. I'm like going, dude, I'm not even that good looking guy. But they would rather click on something where I'm smiling and pointing and whatever than something that's really interesting. Or I had this one that I really liked where it was a guy on his back, or no, he was swimming, but you could see above the water and below the water. And he's below the water. And I was talking about finding hidden cash, things just below the surface.
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, fuck, that's a cool image. Yeah, nobody liked it.
Yeah.
And it didn't make any money.
And that's the value of data, like of tracking data. And there's always the sample size. You got to be careful about, like, do you have what's the term? Like basically the critical mass, like to make it statistically valid or whatever. But you can learn so much from that, and following the data is just so important. And we've had that in dry run before, where you kind of get lazy, you're not really looking, all of a sudden you look at a little data point and go, oh, wait a minute, this is a number was different than I thought. Like this is a guideline that's telling us where to go, and we ignored it. We didn't see it. And that data is so important to track.
I mean, how often do you see something and you don't want it to be true? You're like, man, I just don't want to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's times, but there's other times where, just like you, it's like, that's working. Go there, double down, go. And that's exciting. That's fun when you get that.
Right. So, hey, let's talk about dry run. Why don't you, we said this year we're going to talk about cash flow Mike and dry run. So you let me do cash flow Mike last week. Tell us about dry run.
Yeah. So of course, I as you did last week, I did not come up with a script and didn't think about it till just now. But let's talk about dry run. And one of the things that Jeremy and I were talking about, my director of development, earlier today, is there are two things that I said, what dry run helps you with? Two things. I said, time is money and knowledge is power. And I pull those out because our customers so often are buried in spreadsheets trying to figure out where they're going. And we help them with some fundamental issues. What does your cash flow look like? What does your sales pipeline look like? Because that's going to turn into cash flow. And modeling scenarios to solve the problems that basically that cash flow and that sales pipeline are giving you. And our customers are so often spending so much time in spreadsheets trying to figure that stuff out. And the more complicated it is, you have multiple locations and you're moving money from one entity to another and all this kind of stuff. We say 80% of our time. Honestly, that's conservative for some of our customers. The amount of time that they were buried in spreadsheets, and we first of all pull them out of spreadsheets, and then we give them the information to help them make those decisions that are so critical in business. That there's an opportunity cost when you don't know what the hell's going on in your business. And we help them with that. We help them know what cash is coming in, what they're going to have on hand, what their pipeline looks like, and that helps them go after those opportunities and grow their business. So that's what we do at dry run: cash flow forecasting, sales forecasting, scenario modeling. We're going to help you grow your business.
And I tell you what, we just forged a new partnership, and I have high expectations for what this is going to yield for both companies this year.
Absolutely. Before we got on the show, I'm going to tell you guys, like, because I know this week was dry run week or whatever, but Mike is doing training. If you're a business and you need to find that hidden cash, I'm totally, like, I know it's going to sound like I'm totally doing a commercial. I'm not reading this or anything. I know Mike and I were talking about this offline before, where my last business, when I started actually looking at the data in my business and actually had the spreadsheets, which dry run now replaces. But one of the things was when you wake up one morning and realize how much money you left on the table. And we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars in the past year or two. And you're like, oh my God, what was I doing? And that's to, learn that from Mike. And if you're a CPA, learn how to talk with your customers about this kind of stuff. then come talk to us, and we got the tools can help you.
Hey, speaking of right here, 751. That was the last amount of hidden cash I just found in electrical contracting company. $751,000. You don't think his 2023 is going to be different when we make the adjustments and put that back in his pocket?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's staggering because I've seen it myself. I've done it myself, and you go, oh, geez, there's a lot there. And you don't realize it till you see it. And with us, with our business, there was so much. It wasn't just about money, but it was understanding when we were flush with cash that let us go get better clients, that let us turn away shitty clients and go for those halo clients that would be movers for us, that would help us build reputation, help us get to that next level. Because this is a creative agency is what I own. And those were so important to move that business forward. So it's not just dollars and cents. It's like, yeah, but how do you grow your company, and how do you find that opportunity that is really going to move your business forward? That's how you do it.
Yeah. So if high expectations are the key to everything, and again, Sam Walton would know. I mean, he took his little general store really,
Yeah.
and turned it into, well, hell, it's Walmart.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But think about this. How many times have we failed?
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's almost every year. You're like, oh, damn, I thought I was going to do this. Or there's something that happens every single year that just it doesn't meet your expectations, those high expectations. But that doesn't really mean you failed, even though you didn't meet it. It's the old thing of, hey, if you, what is it? Shoot for the moon, you still hit the stars if you miss. I mean, there's still so much productivity that happens when you're focused on the next thing. What is that? Let's reach a little bit. Let's expand ourselves a little bit. Have some realistic goals, but have some high expectations beyond those goals.
Yeah, you can't just have a goal that it's like, well, we can slam dunk that one, whatever. Frankly, I'm not even sure if you'll reach it because everyone gets real lazy. So yeah, you have to have lofty goals, and you have to have a meat behind the goals, like a reason behind the goals, a vision behind the goals. But you need it lofty enough, like I said, realistic. You could hit it if everything hits bang on. But I also know as a business owner, and especially as a startup owner, you have a lot of failures along the way, a lot of hard lessons, and you call them failures, but that's how you learn. So is it really a failure? Or is it just part of the process, right? Like that's sometimes just part of the process. If you're alive and kicking, man, you know what? Really, realistically, have you failed yet, or have you just had little learnings along the way?
Well, I mean, in 2007, I opened my second restaurant. Think about the timing of that. Everybody knows 2008, the bankers burnt the world down is really what happened.
No, well,
the banker says, oh. So I'm sitting there opening a restaurant all the way through 2007 to only just hit heartache and heart. So any of the things I thought were realistic and optimistic, going into 2008, man, I was dead wrong, and it was a struggle. Yeah. And one of the things you got to do quickly is know, oh my God, that my plan ain't going to work. What we talked about in October, November, by March, I'm like going, yeah, we're way off. I mean, we've got to adjust now today and, bring everybody back to realistic expectations, or else they're going to get demotivated. Like, it's March and I already know I can't make it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's a constant adjustment. Yeah, I think
reset your staff too, though. You got to reset their expectations too, or else you'll lose them, right? Because they're like, I'm not going to make bonus. I'm not going to make this. I'm not going to, you got to readjust them somehow.
Yeah, and it's a tough one, but I think that's where a lot of honesty comes into play, and transparency, and it's a balancing act of. I know in my agency days that there were times, like especially that 2008, 2009, we didn't share anything, like with our staff, because we didn't want to worry them. Looking back now, that wasn't the best idea. That we should have been more open and more transparent, because I think they would have understood a bit more and understood the gravity of what because they can read the newspapers too, but it didn't feel like it was affecting us because we never let them feel like it was affecting us, right? And so there's this constant balancing act that owners and entrepreneurs are facing, right?
Well, I think during that time, it was okay to be a little bit more transparent because you couldn't just job hop, right? When times are good, you can go, oh, I can just job hop everywhere I want to. I don't like you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go over there. When times are tough and all that, everybody kind of shrinks up. Nobody's hiring. They're just kind of maintaining the staff. And if you leave, you might do the owner a favor, right? Like, oh,
Yeah.
save some payroll. I don't really need that guy anyway. Or,
Yeah.
figure out a different way to do it. So it's one of those things where if you're a little bit more transparent, you get some more buy-in. They're like, oh man, when it was tough, he stuck with us. He was honest. He talked to us.
Yeah.
I think that's okay.
No, I agree. Yeah.
Because they don't have anywhere else to go, really.
Yeah. Yeah. And but there's like lofty goals are, man, they're so important, but it's also the way you get there is important, because you have to be able to get there and have not burned down the place, on the process. And you see that from business owners at times too, like not firsthand, but I always hear about them, right? You hear about business owners that are just, it's the slash and burn mentality. Like they treat everybody, they barely treat their customers well, let alone their staff, trying to reach these goals or whatever it is. And it feels to me like, you know what, you got to do it the right way, or you're gonna pay at some point. You can't sustain something that is unsustainable, that where no one buys in. Like you were saying, you got to get that buy-in.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's you and I be a little transparent here. What's a lofty goal for you? What's a high expectation for you this year?
Well, we like, and I don't, I'm not gonna share actual numbers, but it's irrelevant of what those actual numbers are. But we have numbers of like, how many businesses do we want to help this year? And that's how we look at it. Like, this is a tough time for businesses with the recession, with inflation, with coming out of COVID. Like, everything is like just the world's worst intersection of shit for business owners right now. And we have goals of how many businesses can we help, and we want to help businesses that these businesses have a lot of staff, and we're affecting a lot of people down the way, and we have revenue goals as well. But revenue is actually secondary to the businesses that we're helping, the number of businesses that we're helping, and we'll figure out our pricing and everything, and the revenue will be a result, and there's things we want to do to be able to work with our pricing. But that's where we've set our goals. That's the number one is businesses we're helping.
I was the same way. I'm like going, it's so funny that you said that. I'm like going, yeah, and I'll tell you my number. I said, first full year doing this job, there's 500. I want 500 businesses that I can help. And it doesn't have to be direct help. I can help their accountant that helps 3 other businesses, right? It's that way for me. I'm okay with indirect help. I'm like, who can we impact to make it better for them?
Yeah. It's that's, I think, a more important way to look at a goal. I don't think financial ones are as effective. They're just, they seem random to me. But when you're talking about affecting businesses, and because our staff get to talk with these business owners, they get to talk with them, and they hear their challenges, and they get to see what they're doing and everything, and that hits closer to home, right? And that means more than just dollars. Sometimes in the rearview mirror, like we actually hit a nice benchmark earlier, before the end of the year. And we're like, well, I'm going to share that with them. Like, this is a benchmark. This is not a lot of startups reach this. This is good. This is really nice. Mm-hmm. But we're doing it by helping businesses. And that's where our focus needs to be. We still have financial benchmarks we're trying to reach. It's just that isn't the top priority. That's not the number one conversation we have. The number one conversation is this is how many businesses we're going after. This is how many businesses we're going to help.
Right. Hey, speaking of helping businesses, you can go to our website, mikeandblaine.com, and buy us a beer. That would be one thing to help this little business is, support us, buy our merch, listen to our stuff, subscribe and like is another way to, support this little small business that Blaine and I, participate in. So what do you think? How can they support us best?
No, I would say subscribe and like follow us, listen to us every week, subscribe. Make sure that I don't know if you're listening to us or watching us. Pity if you're watching us. Sorry about that. That's how we look. We don't get any better looking every week. But I hope you enjoy the show. Reach out to us. And as always, you can buy us a beer. But if you are like right now for the next few months, I'm in Scottsdale. So if you are a Scottsdale brewery, Phoenix brewery, Arizona, there's some great ones down in Tucson. Bring me a few beer and I will feature you every week for 3, 4, 5, whatever, 6, up to 6. Don't bring me a flat. I'm not going to do 24 weeks, but bring me some beer to try and we'll feature you. And same thing for Mike in San Antonio, Texas, wherever you are. Close enough, get him a beer.
Right on. Hey, this has been our first episode of season 3. I thought it was going to be a good one because it had the high expectations. We had high expectations for it. And I tell you what, my expectations is to be as close to you as a friend as I am right now, or better by this time next year.
Absolutely. Well, next year is going to be season 4, man. Like we'll be like, well, I don't know if we can get any tighter, but we will be. And in fact, in one of these days, I'm gonna have to come out your way so I can see your new pool. So that'll be maybe season 4.
The tile around the deck is going in right now as we speak, and the gazebo and all that stuff goes up next week. And oh my god,
nice!
You gotta see it. I'll post a picture on social, but man, it's looking great.
Oh, I can't wait to see it because I've seen it. Like you've shown some pictures that like it's a hole in the ground and they're putting it in. I want to see the progress now because I know like that's where it's like, man, that's getting close to sitting on the patio having a beer. So that sounds awesome.
Heck yeah. And I got a guest suite for you. All right. So you just come, hang out, bring your wife. It's gonna be a great time.
That we'll do that. We're gonna hop on a plane one of these days, come visit you guys.
There you go, man. Hey, you've been listening to Nobody Told Me with Mike and Blaine. I'm Mike Mylan. That is Blaine Birch, and this is another one in the books.